Evan, we've taken the show on the road. It is season 2, episode 35 of the Hall of Fame show. And I say taking it on the road because I am back in Canada. For those watching on YouTube, this is not my usual abode. I'm at my dad's house visiting my lovely mom and dad. I was hoping that my dad would do a cameo. He did not want to be on the show.
I'm sorry to hear that. I am impressed by the size of the books behind you. I was saying it's because of all the extra U's you have there in Canada. That's why I say they're so much thicker.
We could run with that. We could. But yeah, I'm sort of excited because it's sort of an international sort of scope. You're going to be part of, I'm going to do some blatant self-promotion to start, if you don't mind.
Good.
All right. So not only is this number 35, the Ricky Henderson show,
yes,
which sort of ties in with something that you and I created, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. Ricky was number 35. And I don't think he ever had a season where he was even remotely close to having 35 stolen bases because he was way higher than that.
Ricky Henderson will tell you that Ricky Henderson is the greatest of all time.
And Ricky is awesome. And you can vote for him and 129 others. www.nothalloffame.com/USA. And Evan has also graciously volunteered to appear on another one of my shows. How the hell did this go to number 1? And you're going to be one of a few Americans, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, we're going to have quite a big show. I'm hoping to have 5 guests total, and we're going to take a look at We Are the World. It's the 1-year anniversary. Andrea Tessman and I are excited to have yourself, another American, maybe another one on top of that, and another Canadian, which is basically Andrea's stalker.
Interesting.
Yeah, and well, I mean, she's got a stalker. I don't have a stalker. I wish I had actually, I've had a stalker. And for those watching, you can see what I look like. So maybe you don't want to know what the stalker looked like. Actually, a lot better looking than me, believe it or not. But that's another story.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, so let's move on. And I'm kind of excited that we have something really, really fun. If it comes from the Strong Museum in Rochester, you and I love this stuff. So let's talk about an actual Hall of Fame, the Toy Hall of Fame. And they announced their candidates for the 2021 class. And I love the first headline I saw. Sand! Nominated for the Toy Hall of Fame. Living in an island with a lot of sand.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the great things about the Toy Hall of Fame. Like they'll have, board games and card games and dolls and Matchbox cards and stuff like that. And then every once in a while be like a swing, a stick, a box. So yeah, sand was the one right there.
So yeah, I know.
Sand may very well be, you could probably say a rock or maybe a stick, but sand may very well be the oldest toy in the world.
It very well might be. If you hear that, that's me opening up a beer. I'm going to be drinking today. My dad was kind enough, who I'm staying with again, to buy me some beers. So I've got a Carlsberg beer I don't get back in Canada. He also poured me a scotch earlier.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through the nominees here.
I think it would be also fun. Let's predict not predict. Let's just say who would be the most awesome person to be the acceptance speaker.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, we didn't sort of like prep this. I thought about this a little bit, but I thought this might be sort of interesting. So our first nominee, I think they were nominated before, and I don't know anything.
I actually have a spreadsheet I just opened.
Okay.
So they have been nominated once before.
And we're talking about American Girl dolls, because I imagine you're looking at this alphabetically like I am.
Actually, that is the American Girl doll has been nominated 3 times for, most recently in 2018.
Okay. So who would be a good nominee for or recipient? I'm thinking a Kardashian.
It is the 20th anniversary of their show today.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I can proudly say that I have watched 0 episodes. But I did see someone post it on. So I did see someone post on Facebook. I don't know if it's actually true, but somebody had posted on Facebook today. Kardashian would make sense.
Paris Hilton.
We have a big American Girl doll store here in Chicago. There was a point at which my daughter was into them, not as much anymore. So we've been in there, and if I remember correctly, there is one named Chloe, I think. So I guess she would, of all the Kardashians, she would probably make the most sense.
Nice. All right. Battleship. Has that been nominated? Because I didn't sort of collect all this. So it's
Yeah,
Battleship.
Battleship, that was one that's been nominated once.
Okay.
And I think that it would have to be a K9 or someone driving an Audi A3, or perhaps a member of the band M3. I'm trying to think of the spaces on the board there.
Interesting. All right. Maybe Rihanna, because she was in the shit movie.
She was in the movie. That is true. Yeah. It's kind of weird that they were making all the movies of their board games, but hey,
sometimes it works.
Gotta make money.
I mean, like when they said, okay, we're gonna do Pirates of the Caribbean, like who would have thought that was gonna be a hit? I sure as hell wouldn't have.
No, that is true. They're like, you really were gonna do that? And then they did the Country Bear Jamboree, and that didn't work. So
a guilty pleasure movie of mine, actually.
Really? Country Bear Jamboree movie?
Well, it's just country bears. I don't know. I just think it's kind of cute. These bears going around. I don't know.
Every time we go to Disney, which hasn't been that often, but every time we go to Disney, I make a point of trying to find the worst character, or the most like the character with the lowest Q rating to take a picture of, who's like walking around.
Okay.
Disney. And last time we were down there, which was a couple years ago now, it was the very first day we were there, and it was one of the bears from the Country Bear Jamboree. And I ran over, took a picture of them. Like, I'm not going to get any better than this the rest of the trip. Within 15 minutes of getting there.
That's why we get along. We love low bars.
Oh, it's very low bars, and still we managed to trip over them.
Mm-hmm. Billiards, and I think we talked about her last week. Jeanette Lee.
Jeanette Lee, yeah. Just because billiards, believe it or not, has never been nominated before.
Okay. Also, too, since we talked about her last week, I looked on her Instagram. So she's always known for that jet black hair down her waist, which now she doesn't have anymore because of the chemotherapy. You're rocking that bald head, and you are a queen. Mwah. Yeah. Love you, Jeanette.
They need to put billiards back on TV. So I've actually been watching a decent amount of snooker highlights on online. There's a guy named Ronnie O'Sullivan who is ridiculous, and I like watching if you get a perfect score in snooker, it's a 147. It's a perfect score in snooker, and it's only happened in competition something like it's less than 50 times, and he's got 9 of them, including the fastest one. He cleared a table once in under 5 minutes, which is ridiculous for snooker. But snooker is something that at like 2:00 in the morning, I would watch snooker on TV.
Nice.
If we're there. So.
All right. The Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yeah.
I got nobody I can think of.
There are a couple ones. I would, Xavier Roberts, of course, was the guy who signed all those certificates. So maybe Xavier Woods. It's the first Professor Xavier, Dr. Xavier. So we could get, I can't think of his name, Captain Picard.
Xavier Woods is the wrestler, Kofi Kingston's tag partner.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart. That's who.
Patrick Stewart.
Do that, or we could do. There's a guy who we watch online called Andy Mation, and he's been doing the animations of old Garbage Pail Kids stuff. So maybe we get him to do it.
Well, the Garbage Pail Kids may not get into this, or maybe they will.
They should. They were a big deal. They were a big deal in 1986.
I think I saw that. Well, would have been a little old to be collecting that, but I'm pretty sure I saw that.
Mm-hmm. It was a big deal when I was at summer camp. Everybody had them.
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to have them, but I have a few somewhere in a box. I was always upset because there were no Evans at that point. There probably are at this point.
Now that I think about it, though, the Garbage Pail Kids got a movie, and the Cabbage Patch ones didn't, or did they? Did they?
Everything gets a movie, so I'm not sure.
There you go. Okay, I got a weird one here. So Fisher Price Corn Popper. How about a remaining person from Kraftwerk?
Ooh,
because they probably listened to that, and it has some beautiful music.
Or we could get one of the guys from
Daft Punk.
I was going to say Darude. They did Sandstorm. Who did Popcorn?
I'm not even sure who did it first. I think it's credited to somebody to a group called Hot Butter, but I don't think that's right.
Well, I mean, if a member of Hot Butter's around to get the Corn Popper, I think there's something right. Or we can get the guy from the mascot for Corn Pops.
That'll work.
So they've been nominated twice before, by the way. Most recently, again in 3 times before. Most recently in 2019.
All right. Mahjong.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's family, and my wife being Asian, they don't play a lot of that, but I dated some whose family did. All right, how about this for the acceptor? One of my favorite character actors, Asian American comedic actress Amy Hill.
Or probably they just get Ken Jeong.
Yeah, Ken will probably do anything, not because he needs it, just because he just doesn't give a shit.
We were watching the finale of Lego Masters this afternoon with the kids, and they had a cameo appearance for no apparent reason for Ken Jeong for like 15 seconds on a Zoom call. So that dude will pop up for anything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think you're right. I think Ken's probably he's got a 10-figure bank account, and it's like, hey, you want to do this? Does it sound like fun? Yeah. Don't you want to know what pays? Nah, I'm good.
Yeah. But believe it or not, first time it's been nominated.
Okay. Or I know exactly who should be the not the inductor, the acceptor. Masters of the Universe. I haven't watched the new version on Netflix. I just know it's being roasted, and Kevin Smith is not handling it well because he's the creator of this new version. Okay. So, like, why not bring out Kevin so that he can really botch this one up? Never seen...
only if he comes in Silent Bob.
Nice. Yeah, I've never, and again, I haven't. I was not a He-Man guy when I was a kid. It just I couldn't get past the Bob haircut. Like I don't care like how tough you are and how big your muscles are. You have a Bob haircut. Pass.
Yeah. I actually have the original Castle Grayskull downstairs that I had when I was a kid. Yeah, mostly still works. But yeah, this is actually the third year in a row. It will be the fourth nomination overall for Masters of the Universe. So
all right. The Pinata. This is a cool one. Has this been nominated before, Evan?
It has not.
Yeah, this is, well, it's super fun. I mean, how can it not be? You get to hit a bunch of shit, and after it breaks, you get some treats. What's not to love?
Yeah. Here's a funny pinata story. So when we were in our 20s, a friend of mine won a pinata in a raffle that was shaped like a Corona bottle. Mm-hmm. So we're at my friend's house, and they were in the basement, which was a bad idea because the ceilings were too low. And so since the ceilings are too low and they didn't want to break anything, one of the guys there hit the pinata with a golf club while it was on the floor. What we didn't realize was that the pinata was full of nips.
Full of what?
Nips, like the little alcohol bottles, the tiny bottles.
Oh, okay.
Like you get at the store for like $4.
Mm-hmm.
And it exploded, and alcohol went everywhere, and there's like pieces of broken glass. And so make sure you know it's in your pinata ahead of time.
That could be a good PSA.
Always check your pinata.
I think that should be our official slogan. Always check your pinata. All right, so who's going to be the person for that?
I'm not sure. Like,
I got one. Since he doesn't really care about perpetuating stereotypes and whatnot, how about Gabriel Iglesias?
There we go, Fluffy.
Yeah, I mean, have him do it.
He hates my town anyway. He had a whole thing about how Schaumburg, where I live, is a very nice, snooty town, which is not really that true. But he did it in his comedy special about my little town. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have Risk. I used to love Risk. We used to play that as a kid. Well, not really. I mean, I was the youngest, and by quite a distance in the family, and they would the family would get together at my dad's side and we'll play Risk, and I couldn't really play because I was the youngest. But I remember my grandfather was a World War II vet saying, like, this makes no sense, but you roll double sixes. Shit like that. So maybe the acceptor could be General Mark Milley, who doesn't have to worry about abandoning an airport.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go politics on that one, but
well, I'm going politics.
Aren't they making a Risk TV show right now?
How?
I don't know, because they had a whole thing on that a few weeks ago about
Hmm.
Hasbro and Mattel are racing each other to make cartoon versions of their games, and one of them there that's going as Risk. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's Risk's fourth nomination overall and fourth in the last 5 years, including the last two. So it's his third in a row.
A great game with absolutely no strict military accuracy whatsoever. So be it.
I mean, all you had to do to win a war was take Australia and hold Siam for several turns, and then you're guaranteed to win.
Okay. See, I never got to play that too much, and then it was like I just went to Axis and Allies.
You're like, Risk isn't long enough. Let's go to Axis and Allies.
Love Axis and Allies.
I know. I'm just saying it takes a long time. The only game longer than that is Diplomacy. Did you ever play that one?
No, but like I've heard of it, but I never played it. But yeah, I used to with Axis, right? Like we have that just set up for weeks. Just play it for a few hours before we hit the bar. Free drink, and then just do that on the Saturdays.
We once played a game of Axis and Allies. Here's how dorky my friends were growing up. We played a game of Axis Allies. We set it up at noon, and we were still going at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I believe it.
Without really doing anything else in between other than getting food and coming back.
My thing was, if you're Russia, you do nothing. Nothing. You don't even attack. You just sit back, get infantry, and just defend. And eventually they're going to blow their load. Anyway, so we got Sand. I don't know who accepts for Sand.
Well, first of all, this is Sand's second nomination. They're nominated back in 2015. I lost out to Clue, a paper airplane, and a wiffle ball at that point. Sand, I would guess, can we get like a member of the Rat Pack? Did they hang out at the Sands Casino all the time?
Are they all dead?
What's the problem?
All right, okay. We dress up somebody as a Tuscan Raider. The Sandman.
Ooh. There we go. Yeah, who plays Sandman on Spider-Man? I don't remember either.
Yeah.
We really should prepare at some point, but why start now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, this one you're gonna have to help me out with. I've never played this game in my life. The Settlers of Catan.
Yep, very, very popular game. My wife's office, some of the nerdier guys actually had a poster up that said "No wheat means defeat," which is a reference to that game. It's like one of those propaganda posters from the 1940s, based on Catan. Yeah, Catan's one of the most popular games in the world. We have it. We haven't really played it that much. We played Catan Junior with my daughter a lot. It's a really good game. It wouldn't surprise me if it gets elected. I think Risk is probably ahead of it in line, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a very good game. It's actually its first nomination for Settlers of Catan.
Is it more popular than the Settlers of Chris Catan?
Depends on whether you're in Roxbury or not.
Yeah, there's the low bar.
Thank you.
Gauntlet's thrown.
Yeah.
And finally, the toy fire engine.
Yeah, I believe it's the first one for the toy fire engine. It is. Yeah, I mean, for this, you just need anyone for Dennis Leary. That's what I'm going with from Rescue Me.
Okay.
You'd have a good speech like, I don't know, I'm here. They needed somebody.
They should really do that. I mean, like, why the hell not? So whatever 3 toys it is, that will join 74 others, and that will be announced in November. So
if you could pick 3 from this list, what are you picking?
Well, I guess selfishly, Battleship, because I played a lot of that. I kind of feel like I need to mix it up, right? So, because I don't want to do 3 board games, even though that's right, that's more up my alley. But Battleship, billiards, and Sand. I like the idea of Sand. I've seen, like, just living in the tropics every day. Not every day, but every week I see kids just playing. They're still playing sandcastles.
Yeah, sandcastles become a big deal.
Yeah.
I think Sand is on my list as well. And then I'm thinking Risk is probably they're going to probably put a board game in. I think Risk has the inside edge. So I'd have no trouble getting that out of the way. And then let's see. I bet let's go with Cabbage Patch Kids as the third one.
All right.
Just to vary it up a little bit here.
Yeah. And again, these aren't our predictions. I don't think. Well, these are just the ones I pick. I would.
Yeah, I like predicting the one. I'm predicting the ones I thought were going to get in, but I also like them all anyway. The only one I'd be upset if it got in. There's not really any of them, to be honest.
They're inanimate objects.
You have not seen the documentary by Pixar.
On
there are 4 levels of it. Toy Story?
No.
You haven't seen Toy Story?
I've seen Toy Story, but there was a documentary on Toy Story?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, as soon as you leave the room, they all come alive and have high.
Oh, I thought you said documentary. I thought there
are documentaries. You're saying those are fictional?
I had no idea. Well, and with that, we go to our regular sections. I'm okay. So I know you said we didn't want to go politics. I'm going politics for the shit box.
All right, go ahead.
And new listeners, regular listeners, it's Kirk shit box. I don't have a soapbox. I got a shit box. I stand on a box of shit and I just say whatever the hell's on my mind. Sometimes it's offensive. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's neither. And I got to go politics because I'm back in Canada and and the election here is coming up.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. Nobody's going to care about Canadian politics. So say whatever you want.
No, a lot of people don't, but you all know the name Justin Trudeau. And if you've heard me before, you know that I hate this fucking piece of shit. I despise this man. Amazingly, I said this to my dad today, he's actually not even the worst candidate to pick out of all this. But I'm going to tell you why I'm not picking Trudeau. I'm not telling you who I'm voting for or who I voted for because I already did that ahead of time. But I'm going to talk about something else that always bothers me, which is hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. I hate hypocrites. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. And I hate myself when I become one, especially when I watch college football. I hate the NCAA and I can't stop watching college football. And
that's an easy one. Not watching college football is simple. Just do something else on Saturday. Much easier now that EPL is on.
No. Morning stuff's over, and then it bleeds right into college football.
I got to mow the lawn at some point, so that's where that happens.
I have a gardener, which made me sound really pretentious. It just came with the rental property, so let me just back that up.
Fair enough. Continue. I'm interrupting your shitbox.
Yeah. Well, all right. So 3 things why Mr. Trudeau is a hypocrite. Evan's heard a lot of this before, and if you don't want to hear this, fast forward 10 minutes. And if I'm still going, fast forward another 10. I don't know how long this is.
I don't think you'll need 10 for this, but go ahead.
Probably not. Probably not. Number 1, and especially being back here, I've only been back here for 24 hours and just hearing all the election shit. Everything's all about race here in Canada, which, okay. And Evan and I talk about racism a lot, which I know is sort of interesting for 2 middle-aged white guys to do, but we do, and I think we do our best balanced way to do this. I really think we do a decent job without being condescending. Would you agree?
You want a white guy to validate a white guy's opinion about racism? Sure.
Well done.
Just by the way, I have an award upstairs that my company gave me last year.
Least racist person?
No, for achievement in my office by the African American agents.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I told them, I don't want this award. They're like, we have to send it to you. It has your name. I'm like, I don't want this award. So they sent it to me anyway, because they had my home address. So I have an award as a white dude. I have an award congratulating me on the work that the Black people in my office did.
I don't know whether to call you Evan or Scarlett Johansson.
Ooh. I do not display it. It's very, very awkward. I told them I did not want it, and they sent it to me anyway, and I don't know what to do with it.
I have awards I've earned, and they're still in a box.
Yeah,
but
I don't know what to do with it. It's sitting upstairs in the back corner. So,
well, okay. So anyway, so all the candidates are they've made this probably a top issue, racism, systemic racism. And Trudeau's talking the loudest. And again, I've said this before, Trudeau is a fucking racist. And I'm not just, and I'll repeat this. And again, Evan, I apologize. You've heard this before. So it's not just for the two pictures that most of you have seen, which is the first one, him in blackface doing when he was in high school doing a Harry Belafonte's Dale. And this is response to, I believe I was doing Harry Belafonte Deo. If you could sound any whiter, it'd be me. But the second one, when he was 30 at an Arabian Nights party in full turban, not in brown face, which at least would have been accurate, but no, he went full black face. So black, he was charcoal. But the third one that came up, and you can Google it if you haven't, it's just him sticking out his tongue, and it's like a 1 second clip when he probably would have been 20, and he's just, and it's a full body shot, and you see that he actually painted his whole body. He's wearing a jeans and a t-shirt. So this isn't a costume party. And when asked about it, he said, I think he can't remember. This is how many times he's done it. Well, I think I was on a canoe trip. All right, Evan, you're more of an outdoor guy than I am, and I'm sure you've done some stuff with your frat buddies and other things, and maybe with your kids. And actually, you just came back from Wisconsin, so it's like, so when you're talking to your family or back day, did you feel okay? I've got the off check. All right, I've got the sleeping bag check. I've got the full body paint check. Which one didn't you check?
I have been kayaking / canoeing many, many times in my life and have yet to have encountered anyone in full body paint.
Okay.
Of any color.
Right. Yeah, there you go. We're trying to be equal opportunity here. Luckily, we're in Canada, because if this was the US, nobody would let this go. But nobody asked this question. Why did you do this for a canoe trip? What was funny? Now, at a town hall meeting a couple days later, somebody asked him, so how many more other times are there? He couldn't answer it. So how many more times has he done this? This is not somebody who is anti-race. Maybe he is now, but for years and years and years, he made fun of minorities. Now, you can actually look up a story on Vice. I forget the name of the lady who did that. It was a black MP who was part of the Liberal caucus, who said, I'm done with this guy. He just wanted me as a token. He didn't actually want to listen to what I had to say. So that's one. Number two, his environmental record. And he's all about fighting climate change. I get that. But you can't be pro-pipeline and then take pictures of Greta Thunberg at the same time. That doesn't work.
Canada is one of the few countries that would actually benefit from climate change, because it opened up the Northwest Passage and all the shipping routes that go up there. You could actually have like all sorts of stuff in Baffin Island, and like you guys would actually, you and Russia would be like, finally.
Wow. Okay. I think you've just made you wouldn't know this party. Their platform, not the PC. The PC is actually the Progressive Conservatives, which is again a weird thing. Our friend Vinny Lospinuso asked me, how do you have a party that's called the Progressive Conservatives? And my answer was, I have no flippin' idea. Or I go to my usual answer. Why is it called a hamburger?
Because it's from Hamburg, Germany.
Well, I don't usually have an answer for that.
Same reason it's called a Frankfurter.
Okay, well, fine. Well, you messed that one up. All right, that's number two.
I finished third on Jeopardy for a reason, my friend.
Well, at least you made it Jeopardy. I never did. Third thing. I love women, and women, I'm all about equality. Yeah, you love women so much, you're cheating on your wife. Oh, yeah. He is. His wife, or he left his wife, or she left him 2 years ago. Now, people aren't talking about, again, lucky you're in Canada, because I don't want to say it's an open secret because most people don't know that, but I've had 3 people who are in security or in that sort of environment sort of corroborate that they have not lived together. They're not even living in the same goddamn province and haven't for 2 years. And he's got some cush on the side in Toronto. What a wonderful feminist you are. You fucking piece of shit. And he had no problem throwing anyone under the bus, male or female, in any scandal he had. So if you're going to vote for Trudeau because he's good looking, okay, I got nothing. I got no counter. If that's what you're looking at, fine. This guy's a fucking piece of shit. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. Do not vote for you. And if he wins, and he might, and I hope it's not as a majority, because if he wins as a minority, he might say, "Oh, great. Which one can I be?" Yeah.
That is a line to put away in the shit box for the day with. That was
Well, yeah, the shit box is now closed. I just had to sort of like get that stuff out. I am not allegiance to any party. I have voted for 4 different parties in my life in this country. Could be a 5th down the road. Don't know. But I vote based on whatever is most important to me. And right now, what's most important to me is this fucker not winning.
When you said you voted for the 4 parties in your life, it made me think of the episode of The Simpsons with Kang and Kodos have taken over the bodies of.
What are you gonna do? It's a 2-party.
I got to vote for a 3rd party. Fine, throw your vote away. Right, we don't have a choice. Oh
yeah, then right after that, like, what is it? They're getting whipped, and then don't believe for me. I voted for Kodos.
Yeah. My God, he's actually going to come up today a little bit later, unfortunately, Bob Dole. But yeah, we'll get to that later. So should we actually move into that?
Sure. Yeah. So we'll go into another regular segment. Evan sort of talks about those who we've lost, and I already know who your hammer is. I mean, I'd be surprised if it's anyone else.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be the hammer for this. But I'm going to actually start with Ruben Klammer passed away, which goes back to our first thing at the age of 99. Mm-hmm. He was the creator of the Game of Life, which is a 2010 inductee into the Toy Hall of Fame. He 99 years old. He clearly 99 is older than Bob Dole, just to give you an idea how old that is. But 99, he made to Millionaire Estates and had a good time there. He was a winner, I guess, of the Game of Life. So
good on him.
Godspeed to you. He was a midshipman in World War II, served in the South Pacific, and then went on to created the Art Linkletter Spin-A-Hoop, which was supposed to compete with Whammo's Hula Hoop.
How'd that do?
Not as well as you'd think.
Okay.
But ultimately, though, he ended up creating, most importantly, that he also created a special weapon for the Man from U.N.C.L.E. for their secret agents. Okay. So, yeah, he was 99 when he passed away earlier this week. From the Olympics, we lost 2-time Olympic gold medalist in the hammer throw from the former Soviet Union, Yuri Sedik, who won gold in 76, 80, and probably would have won in 84, and then ended up with the silver in 88 in Seoul. But he passed away at the age of 66 earlier this week. I don't have a reason as to why. From the world of hockey, we lost a couple of players this week, including Jack Eggers, who played for 12 years NHL for the Blues, Rangers, and Capitals. Passed away at the age of 72. He has the distinction of having scored the first ever game-winning goal for the Capitals in October 17th, 1974, when they beat the Chicago Blackhawks. So one of their first picks in the Capitals expansion draft.
Was that one of the years? I think the Capitals still hold the record. I might be wrong on this, for the worst year ever in hockey. I think
it is. I think their inaugural year is the single worst team ever.
Like 8 wins, I think, or something just anemic like that.
He was responsible for scoring the game winner, at least one of them. So, also we lost from the world of hockey. Noted Boston Bruin, probably most of all, Fred Stanfield passed away. Mm-hmm. Played for the Blackhawks, Bruins, North Stars, and Sabres. Probably best known for his work on Bruins Stanley Cup winning teams in 70 and 72. Mm-hmm. While that first line is really well known, he was the center on the second line for all those teams. And he was part of probably I'd still say perhaps the most lopsided trade in hockey history, if not all of sports history.
Was he part of the Esposito trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Bruins traded Gil Marcotte, Pitt Martin, and minor league goaltender Jack Norris, and got back Phil Esposito, Ken Hodge, and Fred Stanfield, all of whom were significantly better than anything they gave up.
Well, Norris, it's got to be the trophy guy.
Yes, I'm sure they named it right after him.
Yeah.
But he passed away at the age of 77 earlier this week.
One of the top 50 Boston Bruins of all time, as voted by NotHallOfFame.com.
That's very, very deserving. One of those guys will never get his number retired, but a very, very deserving
these
top 50 player.
These glue guys, right? I mean, like, there's so many of these people are just so important. That might be another hall, like all the hall of people for whom we'll never get into a hall, but their importance cannot be quantified. There's an acronym.
Like Robert Horry.
Well, I mean, like, I think you and I our next big project is going to be the postseason Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That we talked about. And eventually we'll get to that. Like, we don't have enough shit on our plate. I stand on a shit box. I got a shit plate. Oh, there we go. I'm just full of shit. Jesus. I hear my first wife.
All right. So we also lost this week the last surviving member of one of the most important real beginnings of rock and roll guys, the Maddox Brothers and Rose, which is not a name that we think of a lot. They're the inventors of basically like hillbilly country music, which really ended up tying in about 2 decades later in the beginnings of rock and roll. He was the last surviving member. The Maddox Brothers, there were 4 of them, and Rose was their sister. So the 5 of them would go around playing all sorts of, that sort of stuff. Decided Let Your Bangs Hang Down is one of them. He was actually also one of the first people who used the slap bass technique that's so popular back in as early as 1937. So like they were well ahead of their time. But he was the last surviving member of the group. He was born in 1922 and passed away at the age of 99. Yeah, that's someone who gets brought up a lot, but they're pretty important to this whole thing. George Wine passed away as well. One of the most important people in the founding New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. He was 95 years old. He is just he's won basically pretty much every award you can win, including he's a member of the France's Legion d'Honneur for his contributions to music. And he's National Endowments for the Arts named him the Jazz Master back in 2005. He passed away at the age of 95. I'll let that one go. From the world of basketball, we lost Gene Littles, who was a very good player for the Carolina Cougars and Kentucky Colonels in the ABA. Also, one of the first head coaches for the second head coach overall for the Charlotte Hornets. He passed away at the age of 78. We also lost from the world of baseball, Ruly Carpenter, who was the owner of the Phillies when they won their championship finally in 1981.
80.
I'm sorry, yes, 80. They won in 80. He sold the team right after the championship because free agency. He sold the team in 81. The free agency was coming in. He didn't think he personally could afford to own the team anymore with free agency, and he didn't want to take on partners. He didn't want to take on partners because he didn't want anyone telling him how to run the team. So instead, he sold it, which was actually a kind of nice thing for someone to do.
I respect that.
He passed away at the age of 81. But again, the first owner of the Phillies, everyone always talks about the Cubs curse, but the Phillies didn't win anything from 1886 to 1980.
Nothing.
They also had quite a gap there. It just didn't reach the Billy Goat and the Curse of Bambino proportions.
Well, not just nothing. I think I could be wrong on this. I think when they won it in 1980, that was only their second World Series appearance, because I know I want to say they appeared in 50 or 51. I'm pretty sure that was their first as like the whiz, they call them the whiz kids.
Whiz kids.
Yeah, and I remember sort of like they were joking in '83 when it was Pete Rose and Joe Morgan and Steve Carlton. They called them the Wheeze kids. You know, because they were old.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but still, you know, appeared into the another World Series. Philly loves their sports, man. It is crazy.
They love their sports and they hate their Santa Claus. Also, we lost a couple of character actors. I always like bringing those guys up. Don Collier, who was one of those guys in pretty much every Western movie and TV show. High Chaparral, Bonanza, Gunsmoke. He was just all over. If there was a Western, Don Collier had a bit part in it at some point for basically 30 years. But he passed away at the age of 92. And do you ever watch the Police Academy series?
Yeah, actually, I know where you're going here. At least maybe I don't.
Lieutenant Mauser, Art Matrano, passed away at the age of 84.
Yeah. And because it's funny. We just talked about him on Joni on. I swear I didn't plan this, but like another blatant self promotion. Chris Bernay and I, we do the show How This Crap Was on National TV, and we looked at Joni Loves Chachi, which he was Uncle Rico.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, not him and I too. So it's like we're both like watching that, and then when we sort of like reviewed it, that's like, shit, I know this guy, and yeah.
No, he actually also towards back in 2007 sued Seth MacFarlane.
Yes, yeah, I read that.
Because of a bit that they did on Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story, the animated movie, where they basically copy a part of Art Matrano's stand-up. And he sued for copyright infringement and was settled out of court. But
you wonder what he got.
I don't know. But he was initially quadriplegic at one point, by the way, after he fell off and broke his neck while falling off a ladder in his house. So he got his arms and legs back, but had to use a motorized wheelchair usually to get around towards the end of his life. So Art Matrano is 84. From the world of football, we have one lesser known name and one really big name. Paris Harrelson passed away at only the age of 37. Played 6 years for the Niners as a linebacker, a couple years for the Saints. It doesn't say what he passed away of, but he was also an administrator, he's a director of player engagement for the 49ers for a couple years. But yeah, he passed away at only the age of 37, which is way too freaking young.
Oh God, yeah.
The bigger name from football, of course, somebody who fortunately lived to see his Hall of Fame induction about 5 years ago, Mick Tingelhoff.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the age of 81, NFL champion with the Vikings in '69. Everyone forgets that the Vikings, before the Super Bowl era, they were.
Yeah, you don't think of it that way, but yeah, I guess an NFL champion, because that was. Wasn't that in?
No, that was a Super Bowl era.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. About 69.
Yeah, so they considered NFL champion before because it was the year after.
It was because his first Super Bowl was 69, right?
Yeah. And
so the Packers won the first Super Bowl. So the last NFL champion was the Vikings.
Yeah, which they didn't win, and because he went to 4 Super Bowls.
He did.
It's still impressive.
Yep. 5-time first team All-Pro, 2-time second team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, member of the Vikings Ring of Honor, member of their 25th anniversary and 40th anniversary team. His number 53 is retired.
Great player.
Somebody who is like, he never made a ballot when he was eligible.
Which is insane.
Or does
it just sort of like reflect, like you and I have always said, how colossally high the bar is to make the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and maybe too high.
Yeah, and there was also a time period in there where this kind of changed around when they finally stopped blocking Michael Irvin from getting in, like 2004 or so. Because we had that one class. There's Marino, Kelly, Fritz Pollard, and I can't remember who the other one was. We had 4 quarterbacks in a class. And I'm not saying that those guys didn't deserve to get in.
Oh, of course not. Yeah.
But they only had 2 moderns and 2 seniors.
Mhm.
And that's part of the reason we have this big backlog now, right? But Mick Tingelhoff is a 6-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first team All Pro, 2-time second team All Pro.
Mhm.
Like, how was he never on a ballot? Until the only time he was ever on a ballot was when he was a senior candidate 5 years ago. And they put him in.
Yeah, and that's a very good question. And I don't have an answer for you.
So
I got nothing.
yeah. So he passed away from complications of Parkinson's disease and dementia, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it is, and like you said, like thankfully he did get in. He did get to see it. I'm trying to remember because I don't have all the top 50 for every North American team of the Big Four sports. I do have the Vikings. I think I've got them at number 5 all time.
That seems about right. So when he retired, by the way, he had played 240 consecutive games, which was second in the NFL at that point. Do you know who number 1 was at 270 at that point?
No.
His teammate, Jim Marshall.
Right. Okay. Yeah, 240, not bad for. I'm trying to think
For an offensive lineman, for a center.
I'm trying to remember. Was Tingelhoff even drafted?
That's a good question.
I don't think he was a first round pick. So, like, not only did he
was not drafted and signed as a free agent.
Yeah, which makes this even more outstanding.
And then won the starting center job out of camp.
Yeah.
And held that spot. He never missed a game from 62 to 78.
Insane. I mean, I know I just used that 3 times here, but in the last 2 minutes, but there's no better word for this.
And I would like to point out the 1962 draft had 20 rounds in it. Of course, there are only like 14 picks per round, but still, it was a pretty good draft. They had Merlin Olsen, Lance Allworth. Well, that first round was pretty good. The rest of it was not as great. But the other Buck Buchanan was in that draft.
But before we go to the, do we have one more left? Just the hammer?
No, it's just and Roman Gabriel was in that draft. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
I want to ask you something. I've always felt the term Mr. Irrelevant for the last guy drafted is really disrespectful.
I like the fact that he gets the Lozman trophy. I think that's hilarious.
Okay. I don't know. There's just something about that that's sort of like, okay, you're still picked. You're still getting.
You're still picked.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are some of them. I still remember the Patriots had it one year. It was a guy named Marty Moore, who was a very good linebacker for us for like half a decade. Yeah. So it's not like just because you're the last pick, it doesn't mean that much. But yeah, it is. I guess it is slightly disrespectful. But dude, you get extra money and you get like $100,000 in a parade.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about that sort of bothered me. I don't know why. Maybe I don't have a reason. It just bothers. But
yeah, whatever.
So be it. But yeah,
you're a sensitive soul, my friend.
Yeah, I'm sensitive where it doesn't matter, and I'm insensitive where it does. I am an enigma wrapped in a riddle.
That's a good way. That's a good way to bring up Norm Macdonald.
Oh my God,
fellow Canadian.
Heartbreaking, man. But on his own terms. I mean, like, I didn't know he was sick, and that was the whole point.
For a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Norm Macdonald, there's never been anyone quite like Norm Macdonald in comedy. Mm-hmm. Like, you've heard the moth joke, right? That he told on Conan.
Maybe I don't think so.
If you haven't heard the moth joke, it's like 5 minutes long.
Okay.
And that's part of the charm of Norm Macdonald, the fact that this joke is 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Just go look it up when he told it on Conan. It's essentially Norm Macdonald in a in a single joke. Completely, the whole thing is completely clean. At the end, you're like, that was so stupid and hilarious. And
Only
that's
he
pretty
could-
much
yeah.
Norm Macdonald.
Which only he could do.
Yeah.
Like the shit that he would sort of like come up with. Yeah, you know, I realize is bad. You know, was that Hitler?
or when he was talking about like, you know, 47 is pretty good for a crocodile hunter. It was like a week after he died, and Jon Stewart's trying to get him to stop at the Daily Show. He's just not stopping.
Or it's like a, you know, Patton Oswalt said to me, you know, the worst thing about the whole Cosby thing is the hypocrisy. You know, I don't agree with that. I think the worst thing is the rape.
Yeah. So I still think the most Norm Macdonald thing ever, though, is he in many ways probably was the greatest Weekend Update court
Absolutely
desk guy, because he just didn't give a crap, and he just gave it his own way, and he did not care. And he was told not to make fun of O.J. Simpson. He was big on O.J. Simpson with that whole case going. I was told not to make fun of him because one of the NBC executives was really good friends with O.J.
Olmeyer, I think. Don Olmeyer.
It was Don Olmeyer. I think you're right. And he told him, cut it out, stop it. And so for the next week, he just didn't care and went after him again, and was immediately fired as soon as that segment was over.
Right. And the beautiful thing too with that is when he was fired, he said, well, I'm firing you, not because of that, because we don't think you're funny. And then a year and a half later, he's the guest host.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he comes back and says, yeah, it's like, I'm not really sure. Like a year and a half ago, I wasn't funny. I was fired from this show. But now I guess I'm funny enough, but I don't think it's that. I think this show just got worse. Or something like that. I mean, I can't do it justice. No one can.
But Norm Macdonald is awesome. I still think Dirty Work is one of the most important movies of my lifetime.
Yeah, and you know what? I've made a mistake on something, and I guess because you're part of this now. On the fictitious, that's the great thing about having a partner. When I fuck up, it's also your fault.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm not sure I'm ready. We may need to see inside some legal documentation about that if you can continue with the shit box.
Amazingly, we have a lawyer.
We do, although I don't think she would help in that way. So.
No, probably not. But Norm played a former hockey player in the Norm show.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
And I have not put him as a nominee for the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, but
and I blame you.
Fine. I didn't come up with it either. No, but Dirty Work with Artie Lang is one of my favorite bad movies of all time.
Think about this. Norm's dead and Artie's still alive.
Think about this. Norm's dead and Bob Dole is still alive. Really? That's why I told you it's bringing him up later.
Yeah.
Bob Dole is 98 years old.
Is he 90? Oh my God.
Norm Macdonald died at 61. Bob Dole was 61 in 1984.
You mean you just never know?
Like, you just absolutely never know. Bob Dole gave a statement talking about how funny he thought Norm Macdonald was and how much he enjoyed the portrayal of him.
I saw that on Twitter. Norm, I love you. I think if I were to put together my top 5, I don't know about stand-ups but just top 5 comedic geniuses, he's there. Mm-hmm. Him, Pryor. I have a soft spot for Mitch Hedberg.
Fair enough.
Carlin and Chris Rock. Dave Chappelle, maybe. So there's 6.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I'd have to think about it. There's
I'm doing this off the top of my head. Do that.
I mean, I love everything Gary Gulman has ever done.
Sorry, Gary Coleman.
Gulman.
Okay.
Not Gary Coleman. Gary Gulman. Gary Gulman's 5 minutes on that he did on Conan back in 2011 or so. Mm-hmm. On how the fake documentary on how all the states got their abbreviations is.
I got to see this. I'm not
one of the cleanest.
Shit. You told me about this, and I started to watch it, and I haven't yet. But yeah, please.
One of the cleanest and most hilarious things ever. He just makes this whole thing up, He'd thought of it like a decade previously, but he had to wait for a time in which Netflix existed and they came up with stupid documentaries on stuff before he could start telling the joke. But like, but Norm is way up there. And again, I'm going to keep bringing up Dirty Work. I just freaking love Dirty Work.
I gotta watch that again.
Do you know Dirty Work is based on a book called Vengeance is Mine Incorporated? Do you know who wrote that book?
No.
Roald Dahl.
I don't know who that is.
James and the Giant Peach. The Witches, Matilda, like that guy who wrote all those things. One of the coolest guys in world history. He was probably the real inspiration for James Bond, Roald Dahl. He was a spy for the British during World War II, and then became like an incredible children's author. But yeah, Roald Dahl wrote a book called Vengeance is Mine, and they made it into Dirty Work, directed by Bob Saget. And it actually has one of my favorite lines from any movie. So the plot of that movie, for those who haven't seen it, is that Artie Lang's dad needs new liver. It's either liver or kidney. I can't remember. He needs a replacement. And so their doctor is played by Chevy Chase, and their doctor has lots of gambling debts. And he says he can get them a replacement organ if they can raise money for it to help pay off the debts, essentially. And so they aren't good at anything, and they start a revenge for hire business as a way to raise money. But the line from the movie, which is hilarious, they come back to the hospital and Chevy Chase is walking with a cane. And they go, "Doc, what happened?" And one of the greatest lines in any movie of all time. He's like, you owe the mob money. So they blow off your toe, yet you still owe them the money. It just doesn't seem fair.
Anyway, you know what is fair? This is the worst segue I've ever done, but staying here at my dad, I can do this.
It's gone, everybody.
Oh, I can grab another beer super quick.
Oh, there we go.
Which I can't do back in Canada. I'm in Canada, Barbados.
Just because they're similarly sized countries with similar topography and weather.
Shit, I just realized. Wait a minute, Canada, I can do this quick. Yet it's bigger. Barbados, I can't, and it's smaller. My mind is blown.
It's a paradox.
It is.
All right.
So I guess oh Lord, man. You know what? And he'll be underappreciated in future generations. I hope he's not, just because he is that type of guy who cannot translate to TV or movies.
Right.
He never was going to. He just couldn't. So be it. But Norm, we love you.
Yep.
We dedicate this show to you. I don't think you have a problem with me saying that.
I bet he also hated Justin Trudeau, so we're good.
He very well might have. All right, so it leaves us with two sections. One is elevator up, elevator down, which is my section, where I look at who looked up higher and who went based on their week and who was down. My elevator down is going to be super simple I'm just going to say it right now because you're going to go and just say the name because I know you're touching on this way more. But there is no better elevator down than Ryan Braun. That's all.
Let me save that for the ugly.
Yeah, and we make an effort not to overlap, and I didn't really have an elevator down, but there is no better elevator down right now than Ryan Braun, and I might sort of go into a bit more of that as you're talking about him.
I have an acronym for Ryan Braun.
Yeah, you sent it to me, but
APOHE.
I don't know what that means.
I'll get there, or it's coming attraction.
But my elevator up, and it's for something that you anointed me last week, and I embrace this. I am the women's tennis guy. And
fair. I'm the international soccer guy, and you're definitely the women's tennis guy.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Okay. I think when we started this, if we were to say like, okay, I'm going to be the international soccer guy, like you, and okay, Buck, you got the women's tennis. No, I don't.
You would have had wrestling. Wrestling's always been yours.
Okay, which it still is.
Yeah.
But the US Open just finished. And like going into it, and we talked a bit about this last week, and internally, and I don't think I really talked about this on the show. I thought, okay, well, maybe they got a problem because your two biggest names, Serena Williams is getting older. I don't
having babies, which always messes with everything. I hate saying it, but it does.
Well, she's also closer to 40 than 35.
Yep.
And it's not that I don't love Serena. I love Serena. I think she's awesome.
Yep.
But what does she have left? Not much.
What does she have left to prove?
Nothing. Well, nothing.
Literally nothing.
Yeah.
Serena Williams is the greatest female tennis player of all time.
To me, it's still Martina. But I've got no.
I will listen to Martina. I will listen to Margaret Court. I will listen to Steffi Graf. But I'll maybe listen to Chris Evert. Yeah. But I still think that Serena is the greatest.
And honestly, for me, it's almost like 1A, 1B with those two.
Fair enough.
To me. So there's, and it sometimes doesn't matter whether you're good or great. It's whether you can put asses in seats. And that's not always great, but that's what it is. So I said two people that were names, Serena, and I'm not going to go into more Naomi Osaka. I've talked about that ad nauseum.
She was at the Met Gala.
No, she wasn't. And I am touching that, but yes, Naomi Osaka has personal issues, and it's possible she may never win another title again. Don't know. I hope not. I hope she comes back, but I hope she does what she wants to do and what makes most sense for her here in her head. That's what I want for her. She's already a Hall of Famer in the International Tennis Hall of Fame. And if you look at the International Tennis Hall of Fame, and that's what I'm looking at specifically, the bar is not, I'm using the bar reference again, but it's not that high. It isn't. And
it's barely higher than golf's. Golf, I think, has the single lowest bar.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
remember like Vijay Singh. They're like, if Vijay Singh wins his championship, this was like 15 years ago. If he wins this tournament, he automatically qualifies for the Golf Hall of Fame. Like, whoa, wait, what? You can qualify for a Hall of Fame? Anyway.
Yeah, the whole thing's a mess. And like Jennifer Capriati was a train wreck, and she's in the Hall of Fame. And pretty much snorted her way out of greatness.
Yeah, she did have a comeback later, but yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't take that much. Let's be honest. Yeah. And so Naomi Osaka, if she never plays again, she's probably already an International Tennis Hall of Famer, I think, based on what we know.
Yep. So
if these two women who are great and are marketable, let me just point that out.
Yep.
Because right or wrong, that's what it is.
Lindsay Davenport was great, but never marketable.
You couldn't market her anything. Look, a great
Mike Trout is great.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the best baseball player in a 9-year period, and you can't get him to sell jocks.
Sidney Crosby, in many ways, is not that marketable.
He's
not that interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you look at that, you've got two guys who are, I'm not the best judge of male looks, but they're both pretty decent
looking guys. Agree.
Right. And you can't do a goddamn thing with them. So what happened in the last bit? It's like, and this is just my internal thought, like, well, shit. I mean, if we've lost these two women, what's going to happen here? And then two 18-year-olds said, hold my beer that I may not be allowed to drink.
Depends what country they're in. Not the US, but they can do it at Wimbledon.
Right.
Of course, it'd be warm, but anyway, at Wimbledon.
Leila Fernandez, and I'm still wondering if I'm pronouncing her name right. I think I've got it right. Emma Raducanu. I could be pronouncing that incorrectly.
Yeah.
But most specifically Emma, who's 18, who looks like a pop star. You know, and she came out of nowhere. I don't think, I could be wrong here, I know Boris Becker did this in Wimbledon where he came out of nothing to win that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what Emma did. And the whole story is so cute. It's like, well, I was just hoping to replace my, what was it? Not iPod, my Beats by something like that. Just something like a $1,000 device. Like, I'm just hoping to win enough for that. And you win Wimbledon, or sorry, the US Open.
The US Open.
And everyone.
I think she can afford that now.
Yeah. Yeah, not only that, well, she can't afford it, but then she was made sure that when she went to the Met Gala, well, AOC was there to say, hey, look at my ass. I'm going to tax you. By the way, hypocrite. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I love the way you didn't take the bait there.
Yeah, I have different opinions on it, but I'm not going there. So go ahead.
All right, fair enough, which is okay. We don't have to agree on everything.
We don't have to agree, but I just don't want to derail this. So go ahead.
No. So anyway, here are two girls. And so my elevator up are both of them.
Good.
And I hope that both of them take this sport or take the interest to another level. I do want to, and again, I just mentioned hypocrisy and shit like that. I do find it sort of a little sad that we've got the top 4 ranked women in women's tennis who couldn't get arrested right now. And I'll bring that up here because I had that sort of ready.
Well, while you're bringing it up, I just want to give one very quick shout out to Novak Djokovic, who came 1 championship from sweeping the Grand Slam, which hasn't been done in men's tennis since '69. He won the Australian, he won the French, he won Wimbledon, and he got to the championship of the US Open. He's already easily a tennis Hall of Famer, maybe the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
He at least has an argument for it, but I just want to shout him out while we're talking about everything else, not to derail the women, but just while we're talking US Open.
Yeah, right. But it is a conversation sort of worth having. I mean, we've got here. So here's the current top 4: Ashley Barty, Arnia Sabalenka, Carolina Pliskova, and Alina Svitolina. And I apologize, I'm probably pronouncing the last one incorrectly. You can't market any of them, and
you don't know who any of those people are.
No, and that's how that is, and I don't know that that's right or wrong. Other than I don't have a right or wrong. It is what it is.
Yep.
But these are 4. All right, let's just, sometimes we have to have awkward conversations. These are 4 manly looking white women. That's what they are. I can't market that. If I'm the head of a company and you and I we were doing something together, who do we want to market if we had our choice? It ain't those 4. And I know that's sort of awful and sexist, but sometimes.
But I mean, you couldn't market. I'm trying to think of an unattractive professional athlete either, like Willie McGee.
But you can.
But Willie McGee was never the best player in baseball.
Okay, but you can market, and sometimes there's just personality that takes over.
True.
And that's male or female.
True.
That just happens to supersede that. So it's not, and I should have added another adjective. It's for personality women. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but I did. And I don't did anything.
But remember when Tiger had his issue, the first one where there's a car and Elin Nordgren chased him with a golf club and all that.
Okay,
stuff.
yeah.
The big thing from golf at that point was what happens if there's no Tiger, right? Because honestly, the second most marketable golfer at that point was probably John Daly. I hate saying that, but it was probably true.
No, you're probably right. I mean,
and the greatest thing that happened now that Tiger's clearly on the backside of his career at this point, the greatest thing that's happened is this fight between, was it Brooks Koepka and whatever the heck his name is, Brandon Spieth.
Yeah.
Like the fact they hate each other is basically like WWEing golf and making it interesting, because a lot of those other guys aren't that interesting and they need something like that. if there were a legitimate rivalry between two of those ladies, like they just did not like each other, that would be enough. Like they just need to manufacture something.
Yeah, and sometimes that's super important, and I hate to say that, but that's where it is. And like anything that's entertainment, sports, music, whatever, you've got to entertain you. And none of the four women that I just mentioned can do that.
Go back to the late 70s, early 80s NBA, right? You had Dr. J there.
Yep.
That wasn't enough for the league. You needed Magic and Bird,
right,
on opposite coasts, ripping it up. And first of all, Magic and Bird liked each other a lot.
Yeah.
But ripping it up, they had a rivalry in college. They played the NCAA championship game. Michigan State wins. They go to the NBA. They keep trading championships. They're clearly the two best players in the league, but there's a massive rivalry. And that's when the NBA was reborn. That is like these two women who were in the finals can have some sort of rivalry. You can,
and I hope they do,
drive this whole sport again. I mean, again, tennis, Federer and Nadal. And then Djokovic came in as the third guy. Now we have like three guys. Honestly, you can make an argument that 3 of the 5 best tennis players in men's tennis of all time were playing together for 15 years.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's look at the thing that we with the US. And I swear I'm not trying to promote one. No, well,
just keep promoting, man.
Right. So our United States Athletic Hall of Fame. Jim Courier was an incredible player. Jim Courier, you couldn't market to save his life. Michael player, Jim Courier or Andre Agassi?
I mean, ultimately, I think Agassi was at the time. Courier was great. Courier was better than Agassi. But I mean, how about Courier and Michael Chang?
Okay, yeah, that's
Michael Chang. Michael Chang was never as good as Courier. Never close. I mean, he won the one champion. He won Wimbledon that one year. But Michael Chang was way more interesting and way more marketable than Jim Courier ever could be.
Yeah, Jim Courier was so white. I mean, like he was like a paint color. All right, I'm eggshell Courier. I'm not really sure which one.
I believe he was more Ecru.
Right, but there was just, it's not even a shot. Like that's just who he was. He was blander than fuck.
He like I is a transparent American.
Yeah, and he will never get into what we created. Never.
Probably not.
We might not even put him as a nominee.
Who knows? It would take a while, I think. I mean, Agassi, Sampras.
Well, Sampras was awesome.
Sampras was awesome, but Sampras wasn't that interesting either, except he cried every once in a while, which made him interesting.
Well, yeah, but Sampras was just so good. It's just it superseded that. He's like the Giannis of tennis.
Fair enough. Or Tim Duncan.
Or Tim Duncan, yeah. Well, yeah, if we're going to keep on an American platform, yeah, let's say Tim Duncan.
Yeah, so anyway, okay, hey, good for them. I agree with your elevator up. Very good.
So those two, and I watched it all, and ladies keep kicking ass. I think it's awesome. And I'm the women's tennis guy now on the site.
Congratulations.
So I'm going to run with
all right, so we're going to my good, bad, and ugly at this point.
Yeah, so for newer viewers, let's just recap what this is. Sure. It's our hammer. It's what we close off almost all shows with. Evan Nolan says, who is the good? Who is the bad? And who is the ugly of the week of sports? We did that.
We need to time that better.
I thought we did pretty good.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
So I just want to say before we go into it, I just want to give some kudos to the Schaumburg Boomers, our Frontier League A-ball team here in town.
I was wondering what that hat was.
Yeah, it's the Schaumburg Boomers. So we used to have a minor league team called the Schaumburg Flyers because the stadium is right next to the airport. So not O'Hare, but like a small airfield. So planes fly like 100 feet over the stadium multiple times where it's going on. It's like the most minor league thing ever. But the guy who used to own the Flyers got indicted on insider trading, and as part of it had to give up the team. I don't know how that works. So we have a new team, the Boomers, which is a type of chicken.
How's that type of chicken? How's a boomer a chicken?
It's like a wild chicken that lived out here.
So when
The
people
prairie.
sort of like insult old people and they say "Okay, boomer," they're really making fun of a chicken.
Yeah, well, they're actually shirts that say "Okay, Boomer" that they sell at the stadium that a lot of people wear.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah, but might as well do it. They team predates that coming out, but they won the Frontier League, their division. They are in the first round of the playoffs. They're playing Florence, Kentucky's team, which is the Florence Yalls, Y''ALLS.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. But they've gone up 2-0 in the series, in a 5-game series. So they're heading over to Florence. So good for them. They had the MVP of the team of the league this year, Quincy Neaponte, who hit 347 with like 28 home runs in summer league seeds, which is pretty good. And my friend Michael Larson, my former neighbor, who's the general manager, won his second A-Ball Executive of the Year award.
Oh, congrats to him.
This is his like absolute dream job. He's always wanted to get in baseball, and he's never wanted to get higher than high A. He just is always, for the rest of his life, wants to run a high A baseball team.
Oh, that's great.
And
I'm still stuck in
his dream.
I'm still stuck in the Florence Yalls.
Yeah, they need to lose just for that.
I remember in the '96 Olympics in Atlanta when they were doing the opening ceremony, and a bunch of pickup trucks sort of like ran through, and it went, "Howdy, y'all."
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's not actually what I want to say. I just want to give him a shout out first. And I went to a game, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. They lost the game to the Evansville Otters, which the Otters logo is very, very cool, by the way. Evansville did a good job. And of course, Evansville, come on, good team name. But both my son and daughter caught foul balls at that game.
Oh, wow.
My son, so they have like a little grassy area, and the ball bounced a couple times into the grassy area. All the kids are running around. My son got the ball and didn't know he could keep it. And so he threw it back in. He's 6. He threw it back into the umpire.
Yeah.
So the umpire got the ball. My daughter then caught one a few innings later, and she wanted it signed by Quincy Neaponte. She got it signed by Quincy Neaponte. She has it in her room up there.
Nice.
Just minor league baseball is awesome, guys. If you haven't been to a minor league game, they're just fun. They really are fun times. So anyway,
it's funny you say that, because like you did all that stuff, and like, for those like who might be watching for the first time, Evan and I have never met. Actually, we just sort of like
we're never in the same room, never in the same country. I don't know, or maybe not knowingly.
Yeah,
not the same state. Anyway.
And I've always said, like, at some point we have to meet, and then we're going to go to some kind of get some kind of game or something like that. Now I want to go to a Schaumburg game.
$14. I got, so my sister, my daughter's friend had her birthday party there. She got to throw out the first pitch and announce one of the batters and all sorts of stuff. But I wanted to give my daughter some space if I brought my son to the game. So I bought, for $28, I bought 2 tickets in the second row directly behind home plate. Like the best seats I've ever had for a baseball game, and it cost me less than $30. So anyway, minor league baseball is what I'm talking about. So I'm sticking with tennis, by the way, for my good.
Oh, okay. I thought this. Okay, yeah, go on, please.
So my good for this week is, I'm just bringing it up because it's one of the dumbest things that has ever happened, and the guy involved owned it. So there's a man named, hold on, let me get his information here. Why can't I find him? There he is. A man out there named Tennis Sandgren. His actual first name is Tennis, Tennys.
Okay.
He's been as high as number 41 in the men's rankings. He's currently number 104. But he was at an ATP Challenger event this last week, and he was in the first set, and he's serving. And he asked the ball boy for a ball. And I'm bringing this up because it is the single funniest thing that has happened all the way around in a long time. So you asked the ball boy for a ball. You know how the ball boys usually just bounce it to the person? Mm-hmm. This kid like whipped it at him. And it hit him in the nuts.
Nut shots are funny.
And he was up. He was like, he was upset. And he just, out of anger, like flicked the ball away with his racket. The ball goes and hits the fence post on the outside, caroms off the fence post, and comes back and hits the line judge in the ass. As the line judge is walking back to his seat to sit down. He gets disqualified from the match for striking a tennis official.
This is your good.
The whole thing is hilarious.
Okay, all right.
And somehow, of course, this is being broadcast, and it's a game nobody cares about. And somehow they missed the only thing that was important the whole game. The thing, all you see is him like apologizing to the umpire, and then the guy coming down from the chair, like, we got to call up and see this. Is like, I understand. But he's like, he goes on Twitter and he's like, so I just got disqualified for accidentally hitting a line judge in the ass. How's your day going? It's like, and just by the way, this is entirely my fault. I should let go. It's just the whole series of events that led to this, and how he handled it, and how it's just like everybody handled it all the way through. Just like, I had no intention of doing this. It sucks, but it's the rules. I get it. My bad. Move on. The whole thing was hilarious.
All right.
I loved every second of it. And just the fact this guy's first name is Tennis to begin with. Tennys. So yeah, he's an American. And it was just funny. It was one of the funniest sports stories I've seen in a long time. So I figured I'd keep that for my good.
Awesome. All right.
My bad for the week is the Cleveland Indians, soon to be Guardians. On September 11th, the Cleveland Indians set a major league record when they were no hit for the third time this season. I also would like to point out they were also no hit by the Rays in one half of a doubleheader, but of course, Major League Baseball has 7 innings this year because they're idiots, and Rob Manfred wants to destroy the game, which means he'll get into the Hall of Fame on his first opportunity. But
he's not already there.
I'm pretty sure, like golf, he's qualified somehow. So they are just not. They didn't want to be the Spiders when they came up with a new name, because the Spiders in their last season were the single worst team in the history of baseball. The Orioles seem to be challenging that this year, although the Orioles already have a better record than the Spiders did. Or the Orioles with their 19th consecutive loss at one point in August. But the Indians are they are limping. They got rid of their best player this offseason, who did not want to leave. Just because they decided he's like, how many people just outright embrace Cleveland? Like, how many athletes like, I just want to spend the rest of my career in Cleveland?
Another thing about, like, all the people say, like, I love Cleveland, don't live in Cleveland.
Yeah, I really like going to Cleveland, but I don't live there. So, and Drew Carey loves Cleveland, but he's not there anymore. So,
was he like in the last 20 years?
Didn't they film Drew Carey in Cleveland, or did they film it? I think they may have.
That I don't know.
I think that was part of it. But yeah,
no clue.
Just if you can get no hit 3.77 times in a season, no bueno. That's not history you want to be making. But we are sure to remember the last Indians team, because they are going to the record books, and they still have time to be no hit again.
Yeah. When you say that, I mean, like, I was looking at, when I looked at elevator up, elevator down, I think at the end of the baseball season, almost everyone in San Diego management is going to be elevator down.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you acquire all this talent and this doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help that the Dodgers and Giants are also very good, but yeah. Yeah, it was, by the way, that was the Brewers' first no-hitter since 1987. So they've been no-hit by the Brewers, they've been no-hit by the White Sox, and they've been no-hit by the Reds. So when they were no-hit by the Reds on May 7th was their second time being no-hit. They became the 18th club ever to be no-hit twice in the season. And they are now the only team to be no-hit 3 times this season. Again, they also had that 7-inning no-hitter with the Rays.
Yay!
So Congratulations. I feel sorry for DeMarlo Hale, who's a very good man, who's their temporary manager while Tito Francona is undergoing some health issues. While Tito Francona is undergoing some health issues is basically a Everclear headline that you can put at this point out there.
So do we get to the ugly? Should I get like one more beer for this? Because like
I might need to.
Can
So that's the bad. The ugly. Before we get to ugly, I do want to point out that I'm not bringing it up. I've brought it up as ugly before, and I don't want to dismiss it. The testimony of the 4 U.S. gymnasts in Congress today about how the FBI just completely ignored, like Michaela Maroney, what she said today, that she told them exactly what, I can't think of his name, the doctor did.
Larry Nasser
did to her. Told them exactly, and she went through everything for 3 hours. And at the end of it, the guy just sat in the phone and said, "So that's it," and then didn't even open anything. And then when they finally put the report together, lied about what she had said. Like, the whole thing is completely ridiculous.
Well, disgusting.
Disgusting. I've gone over this before. In my ugly, I have to talk about my least favorite athlete in professional sports.
Oh, before we do that, can I grab a beer?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead. But I'm just going to finish up. But so I don't want to minimize what happened with them. I have talked about before. I will talk about it again. But yeah, the FBI, you didn't exactly cover yourself in glory here.
No,
and to the FBI credit, everybody involved in this has been long since fired or forced to retire.
And that's something you've talked about for a while, and we sort of touched about that with Simone Biles, and
right.
I touched about that for her. God, I mean, just for her to get to the Olympics again.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things when you look at the literal word of quit. Okay, literally she did quit, but how the fuck did she even get there in the first place?
Yeah.
You know?
And again, the twisties are legitimate things. And while that would hurt other athletes in her sport getting the twisties if they fell wrong, Simone Biles is such a level above, it would literally kill her because she's doing things other people can't do.
That's a very good point.
So I have no issues. And they're like, well, she went back for beam. Yeah, but beam, I know it sounds weird, is not 5 twists in the air. It's in the same area. It's a very different thing with height and knowing where the ground is. So I'm not going into that again. But anyway, let me talk about a Pohi. Ryan Braun.
So you didn't go, because you living in Chicago. I know early this month they had Ryan Braun bobblehead night in Milwaukee. Did you miss it?
Yep.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. Ryan Braun, a Pohi, the anthropomorphic pile of human excrement.
Do that again, please.
Anthropomorphic pile of human excrement.
Is he the only one to have this?
Yes. Ryan Braun. Now, let me start here. I was in a little bit of a debate online today about Yankees fans talking about how with this, how David Ortiz, they would never mention it and everything. And I'm on record as saying Bud Selig's in the Hall of Fame, Joe Torre, Bobby Cox, and Tony La Russa in the Hall of Fame, all of whom either oversaw baseball or when the steroids era was going on, or had teams full of guys on steroids who they benefited from having on their teams.
And knew. Well,
they knew. There's no way that Tony La Russa had no idea what was going on with Canseco. 0% chance. 0% chance. Right? Those guys in the Hall of Fame. As soon as they're in the Hall of Fame, there is no moral argument anymore for keeping Bonds and Clemens and anybody else who used steroids out of the Hall.
Agreed.
There just isn't.
Yep.
Right?
We might disagree in politics. We agree on this.
I am on record as saying Clemens, Bonds, Ortiz should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
I draw the line at the testing era in 2004.
A-Rod.
So A-Rod, Manny Ramirez, folks like that who knew about the testing and still got busted on it.
Yep.
There's an argument to be made. Okay. I will hear if A-Rod gets in, am I going to be ape shit about it? No.
Because he was that good.
Yeah. He technically, someone reminded me online today, he technically never tested positive for steroids. He was caught in the whole biogenesis. I agree. I'm just saying technically he never did.
Sure. Yeah.
He was caught in the whole biogenesis thing. I'm not defending A-Rod here. He was caught in the whole biogenesis thing along with Ryan Braun. But he never threw anyone else under the bus. He had a weak defense of it, but he never went to the lengths. No one has ever gone to the lengths that Ryan Braun did to absolutely destroy a dude when he knew he fucked up.
Let's just go, like, before you continue with that, we're talking about a multi-millionaire destroying somebody who is not just not a multi-millionaire, not a millionaire, somebody who is doing, I don't want to say a 9-to-5 job, but doing a regular job that most of us can understand.
Right. Yeah. No. And so I'm gonna. What I'd like to say about this too is, with him retiring, a lot of the big baseball guys, Rob Nair, and folks came out just ripping on Braun. Like, it's just ridiculous what he did, everything like that. And the Ryan Braun stands out there can go sit on something pointy. Okay. Like, I'm going to so this man's name is Dino Lorenzi Jr.
Oh, wow.
So,
shit, we're pointing people out. Okay, I love this. Go.
So Dino Lorenzi Jr. was the guy who took the sample. So here's what happened. There was a drug test given to Ryan Braun back in 2012. The guy who collected it was Dino Lorenzi Jr. Now, he was supposed to have brought it to a facility, a UPS facility, as soon as possible. He said, and there's dispute about this, that there was nothing open at the time that he could drop it off at. So he put it in his fridge and then sent it out later. Now, I've heard disputes as to how long that was. I've heard it was as long as 44 hours before he turned it over. Regardless, it doesn't matter. That came out as being positive for drug usage, for high testosterone levels. So I'm not going to talk about whether or not Dino Lorenzi Jr. did his job correctly. It's entirely possible he did not. By the rules, he said he was trying to follow the rules. It seemed like a long time. It doesn't matter. Incompetence isn't the greatest thing. You can be like, hey, this guy screwed up. There's a chain of command. And Braun actually won because the chain of custody was broken because it wasn't sent as much.
Right, yeah.
That much. All right, you want to argue on a technicality, get off. I'm actually okay with that. And Braun's defense, even though Braun knew he was wrong, that one doesn't bother me as much as everything that followed. Here's comes the problem. He said that Lorenzi was a Cubs fan. Okay, whatever. So he had reason since Braun played for the Brewers.
You said he was a Cubs fan? I missed that completely of all this. Okay.
He said that, but more than that, he called Joey Votto. He called Troy Tulowitzki. He called a whole bunch of other folks around the league. He called Brian Kemp, whose MVP he stole that year. He and Mike Greenwell are Kemp. Right? Is Brian's not his first name? What's I think? The Dodger Kemp. Right? I think it was first name. Matt Kemp. I'm sorry, wrong guy. So yeah, Mike Greenwell and Matt Kemp, guys who lost their MVPs to steroids. But he called Matt Kemp and told them that this whole thing was bullshit. The guy made this whole thing up, and that he was anti-Semitic because Ryan Braun was Jewish. And he went on this whole thing, this whole diatribe this is also why we'll never forgive Rafael Palmeiro either. Pointing his finger at Congress like, I've never used it, knowing he was about to be suspended for having used it within like 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
He went out of his way to ruin a random dude's life. Literally went out of his way to ruin this dude's life. And then what happens? Biogenesis happens. And Ryan Braun's name is on the list as to having paid money repeatedly. There's a guy had a ledger of the people's names and how much they paid regularly. He was regularly paying $1,500 to this guy for stuff that he didn't test positive for. Now that brings up the question as to whether or not the testing regimen was that great in Major League Baseball. But he, at that point, Major League Baseball, at that point, the penalty was 50 games for the test.
Mm-hmm.
But Major League Baseball suspended him 50 games plus an extra 15, and the playoffs, 65, because of what he did in his defense with that whole.
Yeah, because it was a piece of shit.
He lost $3.25 million in those 65 games. So I want to point out how many games are in baseball? 162. So he basically lost 40% of the season, right? And made $3.25 million, all while trying to destroy this dude's life. Now, he said he went into Dino Lorenzi Jr. invited he and his wife over for dinner and they hashed things out, but he never paid him anything. He never gave him anything for ruining his life. And he said that, oh, I wish that I had never had that press conference because I said a lot of things I probably shouldn't have said. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, a lot.
You knew that at the time, though.
Yeah.
He's mostly unrepentant for what he did. He continued to play for years for the Brewers, and the Brewers fans still somehow love him. I don't get it. I mean, this is probably the best era of Brewers baseball, and he's been a part of it. Let's be honest. The Brewers, maybe other than the Ben Ogilvy, Gorman Thomas era.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the Gorman Thomas, Ben Ogilvy era, right? And Robin Yount, those early 80s Brewers teams are pretty good. But other than that, this is the best time for Brewers baseball ever.
Another thing, if I could, God damn, with all of the stuff that sort of like happened here with Braun, ESPN, because like you sent me this on Twitter and said like, okay, like he's retired, so I'm doing my diligence, and ESPN, Ryan Braun, they didn't even mention what happened. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like that you just sort of like brought up. Nothing. Zero. I mean, it's in his Wikipedia, of course, but like in the whole ESPN, like which makes you think like, why is ESPN protecting him, or they don't think it's a big deal? And I don't know the answer.
It's amazing to me how many teams think that Rob Nair hates them. Like Rob Nair is a Kansas City Royals fan. He grew up a Royals fan. Like his hate has got to be, I guess, the Cardinals. But like, who do the Royals really hate? Like the Royals just don't matter in baseball. They matter once every 30 years, right? Other than that, they're usually pretty terrible. Mm-hmm. But like all these Brewers fans who are defending Ryan Braun, just stop.
No,
the dude is an asshole. Mm-hmm. He's an anthropomorphic piece of human excrement. He is the worst.
What's the acronym?
APOHE. APOHE. Anthropomorphic pile of human excrement. He is the single worst person in sports.
Wow.
For the last 15 years. There are people who have cheated. There are people who have done terrible things to other people. What he did outside of murdering somebody and premeditated is just basically as big an assassination as you can make of somebody for something you did wrong.
I don't even know how to close after this.
He just needs to go away. He should not show up on a Hall of Fame ballot. He will, but he shouldn't. He will, but he should not.
But he won't get in.
That doesn't matter to me.
Right.
He should not have the opportunity to be on the ballot at all. Okay. He is a terrible human being. And all those guys that once he got busted, Kemp and Tulowitzki and Votto all felt betrayed because he called them personally and told them like, hey, this is a whole frame job. And guess what? It wasn't a frame. It was a frame job, just not on him. It's a frame job by him.
Right. Yeah.
Go away and never return, Ryan Braun. Go away. I think I'm done. That's good.
Yeah. And you thought I hated people.
Oh, I've told you,
Yeah.
this has not been a secret. Ryan
Right.
Braun, I think, is the most despicable person in sports, and I've thought that for a long period of time.
All right. Ryan Braun, fuck off. Justin Trudeau, fuck off. There's 6 words you don't really want to, you don't imagine together, do you? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. So
Well, who gives a shit? Well, this ends the Hall of Fame show, and we have so much more coming. Stay tuned and stay safe.
Take care, guys.